I was cleaning out the attic and found a box of love letters from my mom and Uncle Michael, in which my mom claimed I was his biological son, and the last letter shattered my sense of self, and I just learned I'd lived a lie my whole life. My name is Ethan, and I'm 32 years old. Or rather, I was 32 when I learned the truth. Now it feels like I was born again 3 months ago, the day I found those letters. I grew up in Portland, Oregon, in an ordinary middle-class family. My father, or rather, the man I always called my father, David Harrison, was an accountant. My mother, Susan, was a school teacher. A quiet, measured life. I never had any reason to doubt who I was, until that day in the attic. My mother died 3 months ago, pancreatic cancer, fast, brutal. 4 months passed from diagnosis to death. My father, David, wasn't coping. He wandered the house like a ghost, unable to bring himself to unpack her things. "I can't, Ethan," he'd say when I visited. "Everything reminds me of her." I took it upon myself. I said I'd clean out the attic myself while he was at work. The house I grew up in was an old Victorian with a huge attic. My mother kept everything there. Boxes of photographs, old clothes, furniture, books, jewelry. I began methodically unpacking, box after box. I planned to donate most of it to charity. And then I came across a small cardboard box, sealed with tape, with the inscription in my mother's handwriting, 1991 to 1992. The year I was born. I opened the box. Inside were letters. Dozens of letters in envelopes, yellowed with age, handwritten. I picked up the first letter. The envelope read, Susan. No last name, no address. Opened it. Dated March 1991. Began reading. "Dear Susan, I know I shouldn't write to you. I know we agreed to keep our distance, but I can't stop thinking about you, about that night, about what we did. David is my brother and I betrayed him. But what I feel for you, it's not just a mistake. It's something real. I'm leaving for the army in a week. Maybe it's for the best. Maybe the distance will help me forget. But I had to tell you. I love you. Michael." I sat on the attic floor with the letter in my hands, unable to move. Michael. Uncle Michael. My father's younger brother. Michael had always been a part of my life. He was 10 years younger than David. My father was 45 when I was born. Michael was 35. Uncle Michael lived in San Diego and worked in IT. He came to visit us several times a year, for Christmas, Thanksgiving, and for a week or two in the summer. I always loved it when he came. He was cool, young, interesting. He told me stories about his travels, brought me gifts, played video games with me, taught me how to skateboard. David was a good father, but strict, serious. He always monitored my grades, discipline, and responsibility. Michael was easygoing, fun. You could just fool around with him. Now I sat in the attic and understood why he always paid so much attention to me. I read letter after letter in chronological order. April 1991. Michael writes from Army boot camp, says he misses her, that he thinks about her every day, asks for a reply. May 1991. He received a letter from Susan. She wrote that it was over, that what had happened between them was a mistake, that she loved David, that she and Michael should no longer communicate. June 1991. Michael writes again. He begs her not to push him away. He says he understands her choice, but at least wants friendship. July 1991. This letter changed everything. Susan, I received your last letter. You're pregnant. Congratulations to you and David. I know how long you've wanted this, but your question haunts me. You ask if you're sure of the dates. Susan, I counted 2. That night was early February. If you conceived then, the due dates are right. I don't know what to say. I don't know what you want to hear. But if there's a chance this baby is mine, I need to know. Michael. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the letter. Next letter. August 1991. Michael, I took a test, a paternity test. Non-invasive, safe for the baby. The results came back yesterday. The baby is yours. I don't know what to do. David is so happy. He's been waiting for this for 10 years. Our marriage was on the rocks because of infertility. And then, a miracle. He doesn't know about that night. About us. No one knows. If I tell him the truth, it will destroy him. Destroy you both. Destroy our entire family. I've made my decision. I won't tell him. This child will be David's son. You'll be his uncle. We'll act as if nothing happened. Forgive me. Forgive us both. It's the only way. Susan. The last letter in the box. September 1991. Susan, I agree. I will love our son from afar. I will be the uncle you want me to be. I will be part of his life, but not his father. David is a good man. He will be a good father, better than I could ever be. I promise no one will ever know. But know this, I will love this child every day of his life, even if he never knows the truth. Michael. I was born in December 1991. I sat in the attic, surrounded by letters, and the whole world was crumbling around me. David is not my father. Michael is my father. My whole life. 32 years. A lie. I tried to remember even one moment when Mom or Michael had given me any clue. Even a hint. Nothing. They played their roles perfectly. Mom was a loving mother. David was a caring father. Michael was a fun uncle. No one ever let it slip. I began to remember childhood moments from a new perspective. How Michael always brought me gifts for my birthday. Expensive, meaningful, things I wanted but never said out loud. How he talked to me for hours when he visited. Asked about school, friends, dreams. How he cried at my high school graduation. I thought then that he was just sentimental. How he gave me $20,000 for a down payment on a house when I got married. He said it was just to help his nephew. David then gave me $5,000. Everything worked out. He was there. Always. But at a distance. He loved me. But he couldn't show how much. I came down from the attic in a state of shock. David was home. Sitting in the living room watching the news. "How's it going?" he asked, his eyes glued to the TV. I stood in the doorway, holding a box of letters. "Dad, I need to ask you something." He looked at me. He saw the box. His face changed. "Where did you find this?" His voice was quiet. "In the attic. In Mom's things." He closed his eyes. "So you know." Not a question. A statement. "You knew?" I almost screamed. "You knew that Yes, I knew." The room spun. "How long?" "Since the very beginning." I couldn't breathe. "Since the very beginning? You knew I wasn't your son, and yet—" "You are my son." He stood up, his voice firm. "Biology doesn't determine paternity. I raised you. I changed your diapers. I taught you to ride a bike. I sat at all your soccer games. I helped you with your homework. You lied to me for 32 years. Silence. "How did you know?" I asked more quietly. David sat back down heavily. "Your mother confessed. A month after you were born. We were in the living room holding you in my arms. You were sleeping. Susan was crying. She said she couldn't live with that secret anymore. And you stayed? I loved her. And I already loved you. You were my son, no matter what. But I wasn't. I'm your brother's son." "Michael gave you to me," David said. "He could fight. He could have demanded rights. But he backed down. Because he knew I would give you stability, a family, a home. Something he couldn't give you at 25 when he went into the army. That's no excuse for lying. We were trying to protect you. From what? From the truth? From pain. From the destruction of your family. From you growing up knowing your birth was the result of betrayal." I threw the box of letters on the floor. You had no right to decide for me." And he left, slamming the door. I got in the car and drove, without thinking about where. An hour later, I pulled into a parking lot by the lake. I took out my phone. Michael's number was in my favorites. He was always available. I dialed. He answered on the second ring. "Ethan, how are you, man?" His voice was cheerful, carefree. "I need to tell you something." My voice trembled. "What happened? Are you okay?" "I found the letters. Your letters to Mom." A long silence. Then a soft exhalation. "God, is it true? Are you my father?" "Ethan, is it true?" "Yes." One word. But it shattered the last remnants of my old world. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" "We agreed. Your mom, David, and me. It was the only way to keep the family together." "Whose family? Not mine. My family is a lie." "Ethan, please. You could have told me. Any moment. When I became an adult. When I was 20, 25, 30. But you kept quiet. I promised your mom. We all promised. Mom's dead. Promises don't matter anymore." "They do for me." I gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. "I want to meet. Face to face." "When?" "Now. Tomorrow. As soon as possible." "I'll buy a ticket for tomorrow. I'll be in Portland by evening." Michael arrived the next day. We met at a cafe near the airport. Neutral territory. He looked older than I remembered. The last time I saw him was at my mom's funeral 2 months ago. Then he kept to himself, quietly crying in the back row. Now, looking at him, I saw my own features. We were similar. Same eye shape, same jawline, the same broad shoulders. How did I not notice that? "Ethan?" He stood up as I approached. He tried to hug me. I pulled away. We sat down opposite each other. "Thank you for coming," I said. "I would have come anywhere in the world if you asked." "Tell me everything. From the beginning." And he did. It all started in 1990. Michael was 24. He had just returned from college, living with his parents, and looking for a job. David and Susan had been married for 8 years. They were trying to have a child, but it wasn't working out. "They were unhappy," Michael said. "Your mother blamed herself. David was disappointed. Their marriage was falling apart." Michael was often at their house. Susan was lonely. David worked 60 hours a week, trying to provide for the family's future. "We just talked," Michael said. "At first. She cooked dinner, I helped. We watched movies when David was late. It was innocent. Until February 1991. David went on a business trip for a week. Michael stopped by to see Susan. She was drinking wine. She was crying. She was telling me she and David had argued again about the children. I hugged her. I just wanted to comfort her. But then, Michael covered his face with his hands. "I'm not making excuses. What we did was wrong. I betrayed my brother. It happened once. One night. And she changed everything." When Susan found out she was pregnant, she initially thought it was David's. They tried around the same time. But then she started having doubts. The dates didn't match perfectly. She wrote to Michael. He was already in the Army. They did a non-invasive DNA test during the pregnancy. The results were definitive. She called me. She was crying. She said she didn't know what to do. I offered to take responsibility, tell David the truth, but she... What? She said it would kill him. David wanted a child so badly. If he finds out this child is the result of an affair with his younger brother, it will destroy him. And you decided to lie. We decided to protect him. And you. Me? You would have grown up knowing that your existence destroyed the relationship between two brothers. That your mother cheated on her husband. That you are illegitimate, the product of betrayal. Instead, I grew up in a lie that gave you a happy childhood, loving parents, a stable family. I remained silent. You were happy, Ethan. Admit it. You had a good childhood. He was right. I had a good childhood. But now all the memories were tainted with lies. And David? When did he find out? A month after you were born. Susan couldn't take it anymore. She confessed. And he forgave me? Not right away. The first few months were hell. They almost got divorced. I didn't visit for a year and a half. I kept my distance. But then David called me. Said if I wanted to be a part of your life, I could come. As an uncle. Just as an uncle. Did he forgive you? I don't know. I think he forgave Susan. He put up with me. For you. I remembered family holidays. David and Michael were always polite to each other, but not close. They kept their distance. I thought they just had different personalities. Now I understood. There was a gulf of betrayal between them. Did you love Mom? Michael looked at me. Yes, very much. But we both knew there was no future for us. She loved David. She made a mistake, but she didn't want to ruin the marriage. And you? Why didn't you ever get married? He smiled sadly. How could I? The woman I loved was my brother's wife. The child I loved was officially my nephew. I built my life on compromise. Don't you think that's cruel? To me? Every day. Every time I came home and couldn't call you son. Every time you called David Dad in front of me. It killed me. Then why didn't you tell me when Mom died? Because David asked me to. After the funeral. He said, she took the secret to the grave. Let's leave it there. He was afraid you'd tell me. He was afraid he'd lose you. I still couldn't quite believe it. Part of me desperately clung to the thought that it was a mistake. I want a DNA test, I said. An official one. Michael nodded. Of course. I'm ready. We went to the clinic the next day. They took samples. They sent them to the lab. They promised results in 3 days. For 3 days, I lived in limbo. I didn't talk to David. I couldn't bring myself to do it. My wife, Emily, tried to support me. Whatever the test shows, it doesn't change who you've been your whole life. But it did. I felt it. The results arrived by email on Friday morning. Probability of paternity, 99.99%. I sat in front of the computer and looked at the numbers. It was true. Michael is my biological father. David is not. I called Michael. The results are in. And? 99.99%. You're my father. Silence. Then his voice, hoarse. Ethan, I need time to process this. I understand. I hung up. The next few weeks were the hardest of my life. I didn't know who I was. My whole life I'd been Ethan Harrison, the son of David and Susan Harrison. Now I was... What? Michael's son? But he's not Harrison. He's Holmes. He took his mother's name after his parents' divorce. Should I change my name? Would that be a betrayal of David? But hasn't my whole life been a betrayal of myself? I started seeing a psychologist. You're going through an identity crisis, she explained. It's normal with such discoveries. You need time to integrate new information about yourself. But how do you integrate 32 years of lies? I was angry with my mother. She died, and I couldn't tell her. I couldn't ask her why. I couldn't hear her side of the story directly. I went to the cemetery. I stood at her grave. Why didn't you tell me? I said out loud. You were 32 years old. You could have told me when I was 18, 20, 25. Why? Of course, there was no answer. But I understood. She was afraid. Afraid of ruining the family. Afraid of losing me. Afraid of hurting David. She chose to live a lie to keep the peace. But what did it cost her? Update 1. A month passed before I could bring myself to go back to David. He opened the door, looking terrible, thinner, older. Ethan, His voice broke. "Can I come in?" We sat in the living room, the same one where I grew up, where I played as a kid, where I did my homework, where I watched movies with my family. "I took a DNA test with Michael," I said. "It's true." David nodded. I knew it was true. "Why did you stay?" I asked. "After Mom confessed. Why didn't you leave?" "Because you were my son. I held you in my arms when you were 2 days old, watched you sleep, and in that moment I realized, it doesn't matter whose blood flows through you. You are mine. But Mom cheated on you, with your brother. I know, and it hurt. So much. For the first few months I hated her. I hated Michael. I hated the situation. But I loved you more than I hated them. You were innocent. You didn't ask to be born into this situation, and I couldn't punish you for their mistake." I was silent. "I raised you, Ethan. I was at every school event. I taught you to drive. I helped you choose a college. I was there at your wedding. I know. Biology doesn't determine family. Love does. But you lied to me. For 32 years. I protected you from knowledge that would have hurt. I had a right to know. Perhaps. But I also had a right to give you a childhood without this burden." We sat in silence. "I'm still angry," I said finally. "At you, at Mom, at Michael, at everyone. You have the right. But I also understand that you were a good father, the best I could have had." David began to cry. "Thank you. That's all I wanted to hear." Update 2. At the same time, I began to build a new relationship with Michael. It was strange. On the one hand, he'd been my uncle my whole life. I knew him. I loved him. On the other hand, he was my father now, and we didn't know how to be father and son at 32. "I'm not trying to replace David," Michael said. "He's your father. He raised you. I just want to be a part of your life, like I always have been. Maybe a little closer." We started calling more often. Not once a month, like before, but once a week. He talked about his life, about his work, about why he never got married. "I had relationships," he admitted. "But every time it got serious, I realized I couldn't tell them the truth. And living with such a lie, I already knew how hard it was." "You sacrificed your life for me?" "I didn't. It was my choice. My consequences for my actions. Do you regret it?" He was silent for a long time. "I regret hurting David. I regret not being able to call you my son in front of everyone. But do I regret you being born?" Not a second. I had to tell Emily, my wife. We'd been married for 5 years. We have a 3-year-old daughter, Chloe. I need to tell you something," I began that evening when Chloe was asleep. I told her everything. About the letters, about the DNA test, about the truth. Emily listened without interrupting. When I finished, she hugged me. "I'm so sorry you're going through this. Aren't you mad? My family is a bunch of lies. Your family is the people who love you. David, Michael, your mom. Everyone loved you. Just in a really complicated way. What about Chloe? David isn't her biological grandfather. He's her grandfather because he's your father, in the sense that it matters." Emily has always been wise. That question haunted me the most. Chloe is 3 years old. She adores Grandpa Dave and Uncle Mike. When should I tell her the truth? Or not tell her at all? Repeat my parents' lies? "I don't want to lie to her," I told Emily, "but she's too young to understand." "Then wait. You can tell her when she's ready, around 15 or 16. "And what if she asks sooner?" "Then we'll be honest. But we'll adapt it to her age." We decided to wait. But that meant living with the same secret my parents had. And that scared me. Update 3. 3 months after the revelation, I organized a family meeting. David, Michael, Emily, me. We met in a neutral place, a restaurant. I want us to discuss how to move forward, I began. Chloe has two grandfathers, David and Michael, but she doesn't know that Michael is my biological father. I don't want to confuse her, David said. To her, I'm her grandfather. Let it stay that way. And you? I turned to Michael. I agree with David. I'm happy to be Chloe's Uncle Mike. The main thing is that I'm in her life. You'll both be in her life, I assured him. Equally. No differences. Thank you, Michael said quietly. David extended his hand across the table to Michael. A truce? Michael looked at his hand. Then he took it. A truce. It was the first time they shook hands in 32 years. Update 4. It's been 6 months since that day in the attic. I'm still processing it all. I still get angry sometimes. I'm still confused about relationships. But I've made a few decisions. 1. I'm staying Ethan Harrison. David raised me. He deserved for me to bear his last name. 2. I have two fathers. One gave me my DNA, the other gave me my childhood. Both loved me, in their own ways. 3. I'm not lying to Chloe. When she's ready, I'll tell her the truth. I don't want to repeat my parents' mistakes. 4. I forgive my mother. She did what she thought was right. It wasn't the best choice, but she wasn't evil. Just scared. And now a question for you. The hero lived 32 years without knowing who his real father was. His family lied to him his entire life, trying to protect him. 1. Did his parents do the right thing by hiding the truth? Or did he have a right to know from the start? 2. Should he tell his daughter Chloe the truth when she grows up? Or let her live in ignorance like the protagonist? Thanks to everyone who watched to the end. I look forward to your thoughts.